So we got a whole bunch of stuff coming out.
Now, do you know the lead-in to why we're having the Royal Half on the show, Dave?
I do, but
Okay.
I'd like he's ready to go. But before we get him on, I want to before we get Half on, please explain to everybody exactly what the situation is. What's going on?
You want me to explain it? Okay, yeah, sure.
Just a quick synopsis, a quick overview, and then we'll get Half to take over.
In the industry, in the business, called a setup. We'll do the setup here, okay? The setup of this segment, the title of this segment is called "The Do's and Don'ts of Guesting on the LA Kings Twitter account." Because earlier in the week, what they've done, and Royal goes on every so often, he'll go and sign on and man the account for a period, answer questions, make jokes, whatever. So he's done it. Will Wheaton's done it. A couple other guys have done it, right? So, and this week they brought in. There's been a long-standing FM DJ duo called Kevin and Bean. So they asked one of these guys, who's a big Kings fan, didn't know he was, but to come in and man the account a la Royal Half, right? Because he's done it so great and so masterfully that they thought, okay, let's extend it. Makes sense, right? Get some notable celebrities around L.A. that are Kings fans to go in and answer questions. And so what ensued was newsworthy. So there's your setup.
And Half now joining us. First of all, how are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm honored to be on the show to be your all things dirty on Twitter correspondent.
we would look nowhere else. So you want to take it away? Like
no,
what?
I'll start. I'll tee it up.
All right.
Okay. All right. So Kevin of Kevin and Bean goes on and makes a sexually explicit joke about rape, right? And they have to go back and delete it, and there's all kinds of. It winds up on Deadspin, of course, right?
Yeah.
That happened like a minute later, right? So, Mr. Half, can you detail for us the do's and don'ts when you? Well, first of all, give us when you go on log on the account. Where are you? How do you do it? And then go into the do's and don'ts that you think, if there was a hit list of what you can and can't say on the account, please break it down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to preface this as all. I am not an official member of the LA Kings organization, so this is just my
right. Your feet, right? Absolutely. This is a disclaimer. Mr. Half is not a paid member of the organization. He lends his talents towards the effort. That's correct.
And if you read the disclaimer at the top of my game day previews, the LA Kings have gone far out of their way to distance themselves from me as well. So it's mutual distancing from each other. But this Kevin and Bean, who's a huge, been here, 20 years. I mean, I listened to him in high school, morning drive DJ, took over the Twitter account, and like Dennis was saying, made a joke about Andrei Kopitar getting sexually assaulted by Niemi in the crease. Here's the thing. We don't really have the water cooler anymore. People watch Mad Men on, DVR delay, so you're not at the office the next morning all talking about Mad Men. Twitter kind of exists as that water cooler. So when you say something dumb on Twitter, for lack of a better word, all your friends or coworkers hear it and then talk about it immediately, and it spins out of control. When I've taken over the Kings account during the second period 3 times this season. All 3 times I've been in the press box initially with Dwayne Hankins before he moved on to the Portland Trail Blazers, and Pat Donahue, who runs the Twitter account in the department now. Great guys. That's just really what's all lost here. I just want to make sure that everyone knows it was not those guys that tweeted out this. It came from Kevin Ryder himself. And basically, I sit in the press box, and we watched the game. I the first 2 times ran jokes past those guys just to make sure that there definitely was a line that was drawn, and I was respectful of that line. And then, of course, the one time they let me do it without kind of censoring, I happened to make a joke about Nail Yakupov getting shoved by Jeff Carter, and now he's touched by greatness. And then all of a sudden, this tweet's being read on Sportsnet, and the Edmonton Oilers broadcasters are calling the LA Kings the most classist Twitter in the league. So it's hard to know what offends people and what won't offend people.
How dare you? How
I also might have made a joke about the LA Kings kiss cam being on the Jumbotron, and that they just kissed the Oilers' playoff hopes goodbye. And I think that might have ruffled some people in Canada the wrong way.
Hey, I'm Canadian. I enjoyed that. Just at least you're not cursing on air like some people I know.
Exactly. Or congratulating TV stars on their shows being canceled. That's another thing that happens here in Los Angeles.
That's another story. Yeah, that did. Half jumped on that all over that. But let me ask you a question. It looks like to me, right? Even yeah. I mean, Kevin stepped over the line there, but it just thinks the stuff that revolves around the questionable issues and the questionable tweets. It looks like there's an abject lack of humor around all of this, right? Like that somebody would have a beef about you saying that, Yakubov touched his card. It's the first time he's touched by greatness. That's a joke. Do you scratch your head sometimes about the fact that the stuff is funny, and because it was about your team, it's not funny? I mean, that's the whole point about chirping. I mean, and I'm sure the players are just on the bench laughing about it. But do you see the lack of sense of humor through this whole thing?
Well, I disagree with you, Dennis, because I do believe Jeff Carter is greatness, and I was not making a joke, and I was stating the facts when he touched Jakubov. Here's the thing. It's such a fine line, guys, because I made a joke while running the LA Kings Twitter account. There was a delay of game penalty, and I made a joke that I said in Slava Voinov's country, a delay of game means that a meteorite has hit your home arena. Now, granted, I checked Google first to make sure that no one was, killed or there were serious injuries and when that meteor hit. But that joke barely registered a blip, yet Kevin Ryder's, sexual assault joke sends the internet on fire. There's just such a fine line. And yes, to speak to your question, Dennis, the humor is subjective. When it is your team being made fun of, I think that was the Edmonton Oilers situation. I think I did a Dallas Stars game for the Kings too, and I poked a couple shots at the Stars, and I don't think they were happy with that. But that's what the players do, and so it gets into this whole concept of, well, what is a Twitter account for a professional sports team? Is it a way to send out boring interviews from your coach, at the end of every game, or is it a way to get your fans involved and to help create and continue rivalries? The sexual assault, sexual assault obviously is not a joking subject. It was very quickly amplified, I think, when Deadspin and a couple other media outlets immediately dropped the R word, and when they brought rape attached to it, I think then the impact of making a joke. Like, how many times a day have we made jokes about that you don't think about? Okay, well, actually, I guess that is a joke about rape. So I think that's where it exploded, and you have to be careful of the humor being sucked out of it. I just don't think it was a funny joke, too. Like, that's the other thing. Like I just don't think it was funny. If it had been funny, maybe people would look at it a little differently.
Yeah. And so if you were manning the account, if you were Pat Donahue, right, and you could choose anybody on Twitter to host the Kings account for period 2 of, let's say, the next Kings home game, who would you pick?
Besides myself.
Besides yourself, because you're already doing it, right?
Of course.
Besides yourself. Of course.
That's a really great question. I wish I had thought about that. I'm trying to think of some of the really funny people I follow on Twitter. There's a couple. This is a great question. I want to give you guys a good answer. In terms of, I love Don Cherry parody. I think he does. Whoever writes that does a great job of being a great voice of Don Cherry, and I think that would be funny to watch during a game. Just to know what the good old Canadian boys are on the Kings roster. But there's just so many funny voices out there on Twitter that I think would have a great time, running it. I mean, obviously, right now, I'd love Willie Mitchell to do it just because he tweets about the Kings during the game and gives them coaching tips. So it might be fun to have him do that officially for the Kings roster.
That could work.
The first time I ran the Twitter account, Pat and Dwayne actually surprised me with it. And Dennis, you know me in away from the computer in real life. I'm not a very nervous guy. But I was shaking. I was really nervous because when you go from, I have 6,000 plus followers, but when you go from that to 300,000 followers, there's a lot more people listening, as Kevin Ryder learned last week. So I was like legitimately nervous if this joke was going to bomb, or if this Roberto Luongo joke was going to, make some people upset. So it's definitely nerve-wracking for sure.
What about getting Luongo to host the?
I guess that's it. I mean, he's been tweeting out some great stuff today. The best joke I've seen from him today when he said that he had the same feeling Alfredson did after Game 4 against the Sharks, that they weren't going to come back in the series. So maybe Luongo. Maybe I think having Luongo tweet be it the Kings or anybody else's account, I think that's a great thing. And I really hope that this incident doesn't diminish all the great stuff that LA Kings have done with Twitter. And I think you just have to look around the league. You look at the Columbus Blue Jackets. You look at what the Dallas Stars did after they stopped Anaheim from clinching a playoff spot. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had with guest people on Twitter and Twitter accounts having fun with each other. So I hope that this doesn't pull the plug on that because of one dumb joke.
See, Dave, I ambushed half with that question because I would think he would have Reggie, the dog, at the top of the list, right?
I would like Daryl Sutter. I would like Daryl Sutter on Twitter. I mean, that to me would be the greatest Twitter account of all.
That would.
Well, Reggie, yeah.
He's a little busy. What's Terry Murray up to?
He's assistant coaching, and he's Adirondack. He's in the Flyers organization.
Oh, so he can't do it. Okay, never mind.
There actually is. Reggie is Drew Doughty's dog.
He could tell some tales, I'm sure.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So what are the main advice that you would have to give for whoever takes over the Twitter account next? Be it, a reporter, a blogger, a celebrity, Taylor Swift,
comedian,
whoever it may be. What are your 3 key points to success when taking over the Kings Twitter account?
Well, the first key point is do not make rape jokes. That's
okay. Good.
Key point.
Number one for everybody.
1A.
Yeah. 1A is make sure it's in your voice and it's funny, because what people don't want is just a kind of play-by-play of the game, and I think that extends to a lot of Twitter accounts. We don't. The NHL and NBC Sports is probably the worst official Twitter account out there. I mean, I don't know how many times I need to see pucks dropped or buzz, period over. That's not. If we're gonna view if there is somebody who is only getting their sole hockey play-by-play from following along on Twitter, I don't know what to tell you. Find a television, get Game Center. You don't need to just follow a game via Twitter. So Twitter should be a companion. It's a second screen, to use an industry term. It should be something secondary that you can follow along with the game. So make sure it's funny. Make sure it's in your own voice. That would be 1A. 2, make sure you put your name on it so that the LA Kings don't get blamed when everyone thinks that the LA Kings did it. Make sure that you have your username on there so it's clearly stated that you are the person saying this.
Mm-hmm.
Important. Yeah, and then I think 3 is probably don't make rape jokes. That's probably number 3.
Okay.
Is just
that's a good one.
Full circle.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what's Tom Cruise was at the game.
Yes.
Maybe get him to take over and offer his, vast knowledge of the sport.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the Kings all season long, there's a comedian who's on Parks and Recreation, Retta, who a lot of people love, and the Kings had a campaign this year to get her to come to the game and do a guest tweet for a period, and she actually came to a game, and the Kings gave her a jersey, and she actually live tweeted the game from her own account, and she gets Twitter, she understands Twitter. She actually did took a little clip, a video of looking through the program of all the players that she would like to sleep with, and saying this one, and one of the clips actually the program was Trevor Lewis, but Dean Lombardi was also well featured in the video, so we weren't sure if it was Dean Lombardi or if it was Trevor Lewis she was talking about. So hopefully it was Dean Lombardi, but she gets it, and so they've been trying to get her to come and do it, all year long. So that's a great example. There's somebody who doesn't really follow the sport but has gotten into it. I think it's good if other franchises want to do this. It's good to have a person who has like a little bit of a knowledge of hockey. You don't want someone to get on there and just be talking about, like I said earlier, just play-by-play and stats and stuff like that. It's always great to see someone's perspective. A lot of people were criticizing the LA Kings just in general for the whole takeover, that saying, the LA Kings Twitter, which it is funny enough on its own. Why do they need somebody else? But I think it's fun. I think it kind of spruces things up. There was earlier during the lockout, the LA Kings Twitter, there's a TV show on IFC called Portlandia, and the LA Kings Twitter took over Portlandia's account for the day, and it seemed like a really odd match, but it kind of worked. So it's always good to hear other people's voices on other streams of media.
Well, we are going to take a quick and strong look at, or not quick, a strong look at what happens with the LA Kings on their next go around, and hopefully things are pretty good. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, I highly suggest you follow the Royal Half at the Royal Half on Twitter.
Must follow.
And check out all of everything that he's got going over there. Half, really appreciate the time, my friend, and we will do this again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take it easy. That is the Royal Half. Check him out, like I said, on Twitter at the Royal Half, and of course at or visit him online, theroyalhalf.com. His points 1A and 3 were very, very strong.
Very poignant. And now, but he makes a great point. All the joking and kidding aside, right? It's a second screen. It's like I try not to, I'm at the games every night. I'm assuming people are watching the game, so I try not to do play-by-play. Only to put a little flourish on a goal or something like that, or a big hit or something like that. But other than that, I'm dropping in stats. I'm looking at while I'm watching the game. I'm on the official website looking at media website, looking at statistics, face-off statistics, hits, stuff like that. So, and I don't get that either.
You don't want to do that. I threw out one. I remember when Washington was or Carolina was in town, and there was a player that was he was everywhere. He was trying to create this, trying to create that. So I tweeted out that Semen's all over the ice, and that people just went nuts over that. They couldn't believe that there was Semen all over. He was all over the ice and stuff. It was crazy.